Let's start our first news. Khamzat still wants Sean Strickland next, and it sounds like nothing has changed when it comes to his desire for a rematch. The middleweight title picture is still developing, with several fighters waiting to see who gets the next opportunity. Recently, Nasruddin Imavov reportedly said that he had been told by the UFC that he would face Strickland next. At the same time, Du Plessis continues to believe he deserves another shot at the middleweight champion. But while those possibilities are being discussed, Khamzat is making it clear that he still wants to settle things with Strickland. During a recent appearance in Abu Dhabi, Khamzat spoke with the media about his future and once again addressed his interest in facing his longtime rival. According to Khamzat, he is simply waiting for the opportunity to get his hands on Strickland again. And he says he would be ready to fight him right now if the UFC called. He explained that nothing has changed. He is still training, still waiting, and still prepared for whatever comes next. In his mind, it doesn't matter when the UFC decides to book his next fight, because he is always in the gym and ready to return. That raises an interesting possibility for Khamzat's future. If the UFC decides to move forward with Imavov against Strickland, would Khamzat simply wait on the sidelines for his chance? It's certainly possible. But his comments could also suggest that he believes the UFC may ultimately choose to book a rematch between Khamzat and Strickland. The first fight between the two was extremely close, and because of that, there is a legitimate argument for running it back. From a competitive standpoint, both fighters have plenty to prove, and a second meeting could finally settle the debate over who is truly the better man. However, there is one major problem. Not everyone is excited about seeing the rematch. After their first fight, the rivalry appeared to cool down, with both men seemingly making amends and moving forward. That has left some fans questioning whether another matchup between them is necessary. Still, from a numbers perspective, Khamzat versus Strickland 2 could be one of the biggest fights available for the middleweight division right now. And if Khamzat gets his way, he won't be waiting much longer. He's staying ready. He's staying in the gym, and he's making it very clear that Strickland remains the opponent he wants next. Move on to another news. Dana White has once again stirred up plenty of discussion online, this time after sharing a message on Instagram that immediately caught the attention of MMA fans. The UFC president posted a statement that read, "The only real toxic masculinity is the absence of masculinity." The timing of the post quickly became a major talking point because it came shortly after Ian Machado, Garry made headlines with comments about masculinity, femininity, and the role of women in society. Garry recently explained that he feels more masculine by embracing his feminine side. He also suggested that the world could potentially be a better place if women were running it. Those comments quickly spread across social media, and it didn't take long for fans to notice what appeared to be a contrast between Garry's statements and Dana White's Instagram post. Of course, Dana didn't directly mention Garry by name, so there is no confirmation that the message was specifically aimed at the UFC welterweight. However, the timing was enough for many fans online to connect the dots and speculate that Dana may have been taking a subtle shot at Garry. As expected, the MMA community quickly turned the situation into a meme fest. Several popular MMA pages jumped into the conversation, sharing their own reactions to the apparent contrast between the two messages. The internet quickly produced countless memes, with fans adding their own humor to the situation. Among the top 3 memes making the rounds, the number 3 meme was posted by MMA On Point. The number 2 meme came from Out of Context MMA, while the number 1 meme was posted by Smash Talk. Whether Dana's post was actually directed at Garry or simply a general statement, fans clearly had plenty to say about it. And as usual, once the MMA community gets involved, a simple social media post can turn into an entire discussion within hours. Move on to another news. Islam Makhachev recently made a wild $50,000 bet involving 2 of his own teammates, and things reportedly got far more intense than anyone expected. The plan was simple. 2 fighters from the gym would go against each other, with a massive $50,000 prize waiting for the winner. But there was one major condition. Islam wasn't interested in watching a light technical sparring session. He wanted to see an absolute brawl, He reportedly promised to hand over the money only if the two fighters delivered an incredibly impressive performance and maintained a ridiculously high pace throughout the session. In other words, this wasn't supposed to be a casual day at the gym. One of the fighters thrown into the challenge was Bekzad Abdulakimov, a tough Uzbek fighter who has spent the past 5 years training with Khabib Nurmagomedov's team. Abdulakimov later opened up about the unusual experience, explaining that Islam had him fight his teammate just weeks before his own upcoming official bout. That timing made the situation even more risky. Hard sparring immediately before an official fight can potentially lead to injuries. But with $50,000 on the line, the atmosphere inside the gym was completely different. According to Abdulakimov, the session quickly escalated and became much crazier and more intense than he initially expected. Instead of simply exchanging techniques and working on their skills, both fighters reportedly went all out, delivering the kind of high-level and aggressive battle that Islam wanted to see. With $50,000 hanging in the balance, neither man appeared interested in taking it easy. The massive cash incentive had clearly changed the energy in the room, turning an ordinary sparring session into a fight that reportedly looked more like a real battle. Islam wanted intensity, pressure, and a relentless pace. And according to Abdulakimov, that's exactly what he got. Move on to another news. Sean O'Malley has made a bold prediction for the upcoming showdown between Islam Makhachev and Ian Garry at UFC 330. And he believes the result could shock the entire MMA world. Not many people are expecting Islam to lose his welterweight title when he steps into the cage against Ian. The former lightweight champion has built a reputation as one of the most dominant fighters in the sport, and many fans believe his grappling and control could be too much for Garry. However, O'Malley doesn't seem to agree. While discussing the matchup recently, O'Malley explained why he believes Ian has what it takes to pull off the upset and become the new welterweight champion. Despite having just one loss on his professional record, Ian is still viewed as a significant underdog heading into the fight. But according to O'Malley, the physical advantages and confidence that Ian brings into the cage could make this matchup extremely difficult for Islam. O'Malley believes Ian could get the job done because of his size, his length, and most importantly, his confidence. And there is another interesting factor here. Khabib Nurmagomedov also acknowledged that Ian presents a difficult challenge for their side. According to Khabib, Ian is long, moves extremely well, and is constantly active inside the cage. That could make it difficult for Islam to simply close the distance, secure an easy single-leg takedown, and control the fight from the top position. Khabib suggested that Ian is unlikely to simply stand there and allow himself to be taken down. Instead, he expects Ian to move, defend, create space, and look for opportunities to strike. That could turn the fight into a much more complicated tactical battle than some fans are expecting. Khabib also described the matchup as an exciting clash between two completely different fighting cultures, calling it a fascinating battle between Dagestan and Ireland. For Islam, the goal is clear. He wants to continue his dominance and prove that his skills can translate perfectly to the welterweight division. For Ian, this is the opportunity of a lifetime. A victory over Islam would instantly establish him as one of the biggest stars in the sport. And if O'Malley's prediction comes true, UFC 330 could deliver one of the biggest upsets of the year. Move on to another news. Ali Abdelaziz has taken a direct shot at the ongoing situation surrounding Ian Garry, and his latest comments are already creating plenty of discussion among MMA fans. Just a few days ago, Ian's brother, Sean Garry, publicly called him out and accused him of lying about their mother and other members of their family during a recent interview. The situation quickly attracted attention online, especially because family drama involving a high-profile UFC fighter can spread across social media in a matter of hours. Now, Ali Abdelaziz has decided to weigh in. The well-known manager took a shot at Ian while also bringing up the recent decision to add boxing promoter Eddie Hearn to Ian's team. Hearn was reportedly brought in to help with Ian's public image and overall media strategy. However, according to Ali, that plan hasn't exactly gone the way people expected. Ali took to social media and delivered a brutally sarcastic message, suggesting that Eddie Hearn was hired specifically to help fix Ian's image, before questioning how well that strategy was actually working. He then went even further, saying he wouldn't hire either of them to do his laundry, and finishing the post by calling the entire situation a clown show. Those comments immediately added another layer to an already complicated story. To be fair, nobody could have predicted that Ian's own brother would eventually become involved in the situation and publicly criticize him. That part of the drama certainly came as a surprise to many people following the story. At the same time, Ali's comments suggest that he believes Ian's public image has taken a significant hit, especially with multiple controversies surrounding the fighter and his personal life. The timing is also interesting because Ian has been working to establish himself as one of the biggest names in the UFC's welterweight division. Inside the cage, he remains one of the most talked about young fighters in the sport. But outside the cage, his public image has become a major part of the conversation. With Ali now entering the discussion and taking shots at both Ian and the people helping manage his image, the situation has become even more complicated. Whether this latest controversy affects Ian's career inside the UFC remains to be seen, but one thing is clear: the drama surrounding him isn't going away anytime soon. Move on to another news. Dillon Danis is once again talking about revenge, and this time he appears to have his sights set on Chanko. Dana White has already made it crystal clear that Danis will never fight inside the UFC. The UFC president has repeatedly indicated that Danis is not someone the promotion plans to bring into the organization. Things became even more complicated after Chanko was reportedly involved in the infamous cage-side brawl with Danis at UFC 322. The incident created a major scene and eventually resulted in Chanko being banned from attending UFC events. Now, following Chanko's latest victory, Danis decided to reignite the situation on social media. Danis posted a short message saying, "I want my revenge on John Pork." The post immediately caught attention because of the history between Danis and Chanko, especially after their previous confrontation outside the cage. However, if Danis is genuinely hoping to get his revenge, actually making it happen could be a completely different story. Considering Dana White's stance on Danis fighting in the UFC, it seems extremely unlikely that the promotion would ever book the matchup. And even getting inside the building could reportedly be a challenge if members of Khabib's team are present. The last time Danis and members of that group crossed paths, things quickly turned into chaos, with a massive confrontation breaking out around the UFC event. Because of that history, another meeting between the two sides could potentially create the same kind of drama all over again. For now, Danis appears to be using social media to make his feelings known, but there is no indication that an actual fight is anywhere close to happening. Still, his latest post shows that the bad blood hasn't completely disappeared. Danis clearly believes he has unfinished business with Chanko, and he's letting everyone know that he still wants his revenge. Move on to another news. Several UFC fights have now been announced, and there are some very interesting matchups coming up across multiple events. A rematch between Ronaldo Moano and Brian Ortega is reportedly being targeted for UFC 331, which is expected to take place in Los Angeles on September 19th. After years of difficult weight cuts, Ortega is finally expected to move up to the lightweight division. His debut at 155 pounds could come against a familiar opponent in Moano. The two fighters first met at UFC 214 back in 2017, where Ortega secured a submission victory. Now, nearly a decade later, they could finally run it back. But that's not the only fight recently announced. Dan Hooker is expected to face Saladin Parnas at UFC Paris on September 5th. Another matchup will see Doo Ho Choi return to action at UFC 331 on September 19th. Casey O'Neill is also scheduled to fight Edouard Demora at UFC 331, while Andre Lima is set to face Namzroy Badbear at UFC Shanghai on August 29th. Meanwhile, Nasri Haqparast is expected to take on Chris Padilla at UFC Sacramento on August 22nd. Dan A will also compete against David Martinez on September 12th. And finally, after days of speculation and plenty of back-and-forth exchanges, another highly anticipated matchup has officially been confirmed. Kabi Coington will face Bal Muhammad at RAF 13 on September 19th. The wrestling showdown has been building for weeks, with both longtime rivals exchanging words and making it clear that they were interested in settling their differences on the mat. Now, the matchup is finally official. With so many fights being added to the schedule, MMA fans have plenty to look forward to in the coming months, with several events featuring matchups that could have a big impact on the future of their respective divisions.